Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to remove the motor off a 2012. They are notoriously difficult to remove, and I'll explain to you why in a moment. When I mentioned about the wiring on the 2012, the motor wiring, it's always had it, it's perished, and they do need rewiring. So the best way to do it is to actually remove the motor off the machine, and you need to do the wicks and things like that. You've got to bring them up to some form of standard, so they'll continue working for you. Now, what I've seen on how people have tried to do this, they've got a struggle on. The bolts within this machine are very, very difficult to remove, notoriously so. Everybody knows about it, and really people are trying to remove the bolts with inadequate tools to do it. I will show you a variety of tools that you may have lying around, and then I will show you the gold standard, which is an impact screwdriver, which I feel is the best way to actually remove these bolts. So the bolts I'm on about, I'll just quickly show you, I'll just take off the stop motion, and then I'll remove the hand wheel. Now, inside here is a Texelite gear that you have to be quite careful with. You don't want any nicks or damage to it. They are pretty tough, but they're not that tough. So basically you just tease this off. Oh, this has come off fine. What you do, you just waggle it off, and you've got your Texelite gear here. I'll be talking to you about this at length on how to properly set them up, and whatever you do, do not fill the spring section up with grease, and I'll explain to you why about that in a moment. Well, on another video, should I say. So what you have are, I'll just zoom in for this one. You have two large bolts on each side, which holds the whole motor to the machine. And the way I do it is that because I'm going to rewire it, I just simply cut the wires here, and that separates the motor from the rest of the electrics, providing you've unplugged the machine first. I don't mess around with it because I know I'm going to be stripping the wires out, so I just cut that off, and then I can proceed to actually removing this. First of all, I haven't seen anybody do any protection of the worm gear, which you must do, because these screwdrivers, if they break loose and you've got them under tension and they damage this worm gear, that will then damage your Texelite gear on your hand wheel. And unfortunately it works that if that is damaged, it will then damage that, and there's nothing you can really do. So the thing is that you always have to protect that worm gear from any form of damage by just putting in a rag, and then that will protect that worm gear. I use a large 3/8 screwdriver, and I'll just zip back for this, and this fits the bolts exactly, and if you try to unscrew it, you'd be very lucky to actually unscrew it doing it like this. So you need a bit of an assistance with it, and this is a square shafted screwdriver, and what I would do is then get a flexible, no, not flexible, an adjustable spanner, which you can then put on your screwdriver, which you can then, put in, and then you have extra leverage on that screwdriver to then twist out that bolt, turn it out. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is that if you've got a round shafted screwdriver, a large one, and put that in, you'd have the same problem trying to undo. So what I would use then is what we call mole grips in Britain, and you would then attach that up, and then you've got an extra bit of leverage on there. Third way, and I'll just drop these out, is that on this particular type of screwdriver, it's got a hexagonal shaft right at the end, round shaft for the main part, hexagonal at the end, and this will allow you to put on some form of spanner, which then gives you the ability to then twist that one off as well. So you're getting more leverage out of your screwdriver. Now, what I've seen on YouTube is people using things like this tiny little wrench, far too small, and you're more than likely going to do more damage to the machine and to this as well. They pop this in and they think they've got enough leverage on here. These are inadequate tools for this particular job. Now, the reason why they're so tight is that there is a very good film dated 1934 of Kilbowie in Scotland, of Singer, that shows you producing machines. Unfortunately, they don't show you making 201s. They show you making 15s and 27s, things like that. But what it shows you is that the female workforce put the small things together and make the small parts of the machine, but the final assembly goes to the men. And what the blokes do is they absolutely screw down every single thing that goes onto that machine with an excessive force. So when they were putting these bolts in, they would put their full power and their weight behind these to actually bolt them right the way down. And I think the reason for that is that they are vibrating machines, and with vibration comes a problem of that the bolts and screws can undo themselves and then foul up the machines somewhere where they come loose. So rather than get a bad reputation, they made absolutely certain that these bolts and screws were not going to undo themselves. And if you do see the film, and I'll put the link on the site, if you do see them, you'd be amazed how much pressure and screwing down they use on tiny little bolts. You know, something that I wouldn't think of even giving too much of a twist on. They would absolutely screw them down. So this is the problem with these two bolts here. They're just absolutely welded in, and they are a problem. So I had to think about this, and the thing I thought of, the ideal thing would be, I'll just bring that down, would be an impact screwdriver. Now I've had this 40 odd years and it's got me out of so much trouble. And I used to use it all the time at one time for very big things, big engines, braking systems, things like that, anything mechanical. And the way it works is that when you strike it with a hammer, and this is only a small hammer, you know, I used to use a very large one for this, so that when you strike it, there's a big spring in here and a few other mechanisms as well. And the force, instead of going down the actual screwdriver, is turned into a rotational force. Now this one is set to anti-clockwise, so this always undoes bolts and screws on an anti-clockwise way of doing it. Now because of that, you can either set it to clockwise or anti-clockwise. Clockwise, you are then tightening it all down excessively. By every time you strike that will then take it down. But I'd use torque wrenches and not this. So I always have this set for undoing things. Now it's 1/2 inch. On the set it also has a 3/8 hollow ground bit which fits in the end, which is absolutely perfect to go inside here. But the problem is it's not long enough, and I quickly gets foul of the actual motor. So that's the problem with this one. And I thought, well, I wonder if they do a reduction piece to then be used on smaller bits. So what happened was I hunted around, and sure enough they do a reduction, because this is 1/2 inch drive, which allows me to obviously put big things on, big sockets, all that, and that's normally how I would use it. So I was asking it to do something smaller, which it wouldn't do because the 1/2 inch drive is too big. But they do a reduction, and that's down to a hex drive. You can then get a hex drive down to 1/4 inch. So all of a sudden I can go down to small things now. So after 40 years, this tool has now got a totally new lease of life. Instead of doing big stuff all the time, it can now do small things. So that was a really good day for me when that happened. And what you can do is put a short 1/4 inch bar on and an 8mm screw, and that will accept my 3/8 bit, which then can fit inside the actual motor housing to remove the bolts. Now these, I've priced these up recently. You can still get the same model as this, and they go for £8 in Britain, and they're something like $15 in America. They have changed them slightly, they've made them a bit more slimline, but they basically do the same job, and I'm still seeing that 3/8 bit within that set. So you're still there. So you've got this about £8, £8 to £10 there. The reduction was about £3, and these are pennies really. You know, you may be spending a couple of pounds. So for under £20 you have got the correct tool to remove these bolts, so you're not putting any strain on the machine, and you're not putting any danger on that motor, because that motor has to come off nicely. It can't be messed around and banged around. And the beauty of this is that when you strike it, you only need a couple of hits, and that will rotate that bolt and loosen it, and then you can then go in with your normal screwdriver. And I'll show you how it's done. And first of all, you've got to stabilise your machine. The way I do it is do it on a table and pop it against a wall, and I'll show you. So that's square on, that is solid as a rock. No need to tilt it upwards or anything like that. Bring that in slightly. Bring this in. I'll show you how to do it. Okay. So what you need is your large screwdriver, pair of tweezers or forceps to get that bolt out, and you put that in. You put a certain degree of anti-clockwise pressure on. I'll just come out of it. Like so. So you're just turning it slightly, okay? You lock up your wrist and you lock up your elbow. I'll come down back even more. And with a light hammer, not a big heavy one because you don't want to damage it. This impact screwdriver will take almost any size of hammer, but you have to scale it down because you're using smaller bolts. And all you do is you firm everything up so you're like one big spring going that way, and you strike, and that's gone already actually. 2 hits, come away. You then move to the other side to your other bolt. There you go. And you do the same. Okay. Tension it up, be like a big spring, lock your wrist up, lock your elbow up, and you're putting force downwards. Hang on. There you go. And that's gone as well. Okay, you just remove that out. Now the reason why I've gone from one side to the other is because you want the motor to come away together. If you undo one bolt, there's a risk that you will start to divide the motor from the body in like a V shape, which is not good practice. You then go in with your screwdriver and you undo, which is now loosened off, and you undo the other side. And that motor's coming away straight. Okay, so you can undo your 2 bolts. That's one, and the other. Okay, the 2 bolts have dropped out. You get your tweezers, remove 1, remove 2. That will now come away. There you go. Sometimes they're quite tight on the actual body of the machine. What you do is you grab it and you gently turn it, just waggle it off, and this one is coming away on a good day. And there you go, you've got your motor off. Very, very tight fitting, and that's basically how you do it. No trauma, no drama to it. The bolts just come straight out using that method. Just put that back on. So that's it in a nutshell, and because you've clipped your electrics, it will just come straight off. Now in the next video I'll be doing, I'll be talking primarily about the lubrication system within the motor, and I'll just show you why. The whole wick system, how this motor actually works with the lubrication system, because I think a lot of people have got this very wrong about this motor. I've taken these to bits, I've studied it, I've done research on them, and it's not what is portrayed on YouTube, and you'll be pretty shocked at actually what I'm about to tell you, in the sense that the thing about the whole motor having to warm up her grease, which then lubricates the system, I'm afraid is not correct, and I will explain that, but I will clearly show you why that is with a demonstration of how the wicks work. So thank you very much, and I hope you do well with your machine. Thank you. Bye now.